The morning light cut through the windshield in golden angles when Amelia saw the stand. It shouldn't have been there. An appointment awaited her in the city, but her eyes found that simple structure of wood and red canvas. Before we dive into this story, leave your comment with a rating from 1 to 10 and tell us which city you're joining us from. May this moment bring reflection and emotion to your heart. The morning light cut through the windshield in golden angles when Amelia saw the stand. It shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have veered off course. An appointment awaited her in the city, a meeting scheduled weeks ago, but her eyes found that simple structure of wood and red canvas, as if they had always known it would be there, as if her body recognized something before her mind could name it. Her foot hit the brake on its own, instinctive, as if her body knew something her mind was still processing. The car slid onto the shoulder, kicking up a fine dust that slowly settled in the still morning air. Golden particles suspended in the light. She turned off the engine without thinking. She sat there, hands still on the steering wheel, fingers gripping the worn leather. Her breathing was uneven for reasons she couldn't explain. Her heart raced without apparent cause. Through the window, she watched the man, his back to her, organizing apple crates. Something in his movements, something too familiar, disturbing. The way he held each fruit, inspecting it against the light, carefully wiping it on his shirt. Gestures that seemed rehearsed not to draw attention, too precise to be casual. Yet they called to her precisely because of that. She opened the door. The metallic clang echoed louder than it should have. The man slowly turned his head, and for a second, just a second before recognition, she saw fear in his eyes. Pure, primal fear of someone caught when they don't want to be seen. Then his face changed. It went white. His hands froze in the air, holding a red apple that seemed about to fall. "Amelia!" His voice came out hoarse, broken mid-word, as if the name had been held captive so long that it hurt to release it. She took a step forward, then another. Her legs trembled, but obeyed. 7 years. 7 years since she woke up to an empty house, a cold bed, no note, no explanation, just the void expanding in every direction until it consumed everything. "David." She spoke his name as if testing whether it still worked, whether it still meant anything after so long repeating it mentally on sleepless nights. He let the apple drop into the crate. They stood still, separated by 10 feet of dirt that might as well have been 3 continents. The wind rustled the canvas above them, making a sound like a torn sail. "You can't be here," he said quietly, glancing quickly around as if checking if anyone was watching. "It's not safe." "Not safe?" Her voice came out louder than she intended, laden with 7 years of unanswered questions. "You vanish without a word, leave me thinking you were dead, and now you say it's not safe for me to be here?" David took a step toward her, but stopped mid-movement as if remembering something. He looked again at the road, at the surrounding trees. Anywhere but at her. "Please," he said, and there was something in the word she didn't recognize. True pleading, contained desperation. "Please, Amelia, just go." That's when she heard the laughter. High-pitched, childish, crystal clear, coming from behind the stand. The sound ripped through the tense silence. A child ran out, no more than 5 years old. Dark hair ruffled by the wind, bare feet kicking up dust, holding an apple that had rolled away. The boy stopped when he saw Amelia. He froze mid-stride. He looked at her with curious, fearless eyes, large and dark, examining every detail, then back at David, seeking some silent explanation. "Dad, I found the apple that fell." The word cut through Amelia like glass. Dad, simple, natural, definitive. The boy had David's eyes. Exactly the same slightly arched brow, the same way of tilting his head when observing something new, the same hesitant half-smile. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Vertigo. Her hands grew cold, even as the morning sun warmed everything around them. The air grew thick, hard to breathe. David moved quickly, put a hand on the boy's shoulder, and gently pulled him behind the stand. He whispered something in his ear. The boy looked at Amelia one last time before disappearing. When David returned, his face was different, resigned, like someone who knew there was nowhere left to run. "It's not what you think," he said. "You have no idea what I'm thinking." She wanted to scream. She wanted to turn her back and never return. She wanted to understand how a man could completely vanish from someone's life and reappear selling apples by a country road with a son who shouldn't exist. But she did none of those things. She stood there, breathing deeply, feeling the whole world slowly spinning around that tiny spot on the map. "I need to explain," David said. "But not here, not now." "Then when?" "In another 7 years. Ita closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was a sadness so profound that Amelia almost forgot her anger. "Tonight, there's a place. I'll write down the address." He pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, wrote quickly with a worn pencil. He held it out to her but didn't let go when Amelia took the other end. They stayed like that, the paper between them like a fragile bridge over an abyss. "You'll understand why I did this," he said quietly. "You won't like it, but you'll understand." Amelia pulled the paper. David let go. She turned. Without another word, returned to her car and sat behind the wheel. Her hands trembled so much it took her a moment to put the key in the ignition. In the rearview mirror, she saw David still standing in the same spot, watching her leave. The boy had returned and was holding his hand. She started the car, pulled away slowly. The dust rose behind her like a curtain closing an act. But she knew she would return, that there was no choice. Some things you can leave behind, others pursue you until you turn and face them. The paper was folded on the passenger seat. She drove 20 minutes before she had the courage to stop and open it. An address. No extra words. Handwriting she would recognize anywhere, even after 7 years. The same hand that left notes on the fridge saying he'd be home late. The same hand that wrote the wedding vows they never kept. Amelia looked at the empty road ahead, at the paper in her hand. She folded it again and put it in her purse. A meeting was waiting. A whole world of business, contracts, decisions affecting hundreds of people. But none of it seemed real now. Nothing compared to the face of that man selling apples, to the boy who called him Dad, to 7 years of silence that were finally about to be broken. She turned back onto the highway, not for the meeting, for the nearest motel. She called her assistant and cancelled everything, said something urgent had come up, something personal. The word felt strange in her mouth. It had been so long since she had anything personal. Just work. Just numbers growing in bank accounts. Just the immense void she had built around herself to not feel his absence. The motel room was impersonal. A perfectly made white bed. Beige, personalityless walls. A generic landscape painting that could be anywhere in the world. Soulless art. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the digital clock on the nightstand. Red numbers marking time, 5 hours until the meeting, 5 hours that felt like 5 eternities, 5 hours to decide if she really wanted to hear what David had to say, if she was ready to understand, if there was anything in the universe that could justify 7 years of disappearance, 7 years of absolute silence, 7 years of sleepless nights imagining the worst. She showered, changed clothes, stood in front of the mirror, observing her own face. She was 42 now, 7 years older than when he left. 7 years that showed in her eyes, in the fine lines around her mouth, in the way she held her shoulders always tense. 7 years building an empire while her heart remained somewhere in the past, waiting for answers that never came. She went down to the restaurant, ordered something she had no appetite for, pushed the food around on her plate as the sun set outside, painting everything orange and red. Other people talked around her, laughed, lived normal lives where husbands didn't vanish without explanation. She envied them for a moment before hating herself for it. When the sky was almost dark, she picked up her car keys. The address on the paper led her out of town, a dirt road. She drove slowly, headlights cutting through the darkness between trees that closed in on both sides. She saw the house before she reached it. Small, yellow light in the windows, thin smoke rising from the chimney. She parked but didn't get out immediately. She sat there, looking at the house, imagining David inside, imagining the life he had built away from her. The boy. All the things that had happened in those 7 years while she remained frozen, waiting for him to return. The front door opened. David appeared silhouetted against the light. He waited. Amelia took a deep breath, opened the car door and walked toward him. The distance seemed enormous, each step a decision to continue or not. "You came," he said when she got close. "I had no choice." He nodded as if he understood exactly what she meant. He stepped aside, leaving room for her to enter. Amelia hesitated on the threshold. Once inside, there would be no turning back, no way to unknow what was revealed within. She stepped inside. The house was simple, but clean, well-maintained old furniture, the smell of burning firewood, a small table with 2 chairs, no sign of the boy. "Where is—" "Asleep," David said before she finished. "I put him to bed earlier." They stood in the middle of the living room, neither too close nor too far, just 2 strangers who were once everything to each other. "So," Amelia said, "explain." Chapter 2. David walked to the window. He stood with his back to her, looking at the darkness outside, as if searching for something invisible. His shoulders were tense, his hands clenched by his sides. "I don't know where to start," he said to the glass. "From the beginning, why you left." He slowly let out a breath. He turned to face her. The faint lamplight highlighted shadows on his face. He looked older, not from years, but from the weight of something he carried. "Do you remember the work I did?" he asked. "Financial consulting, investment analysis." "That's what I told people. But in the last few months before I left, the work changed. I started seeing things, strange movements, money going to places that didn't make sense, shell companies, offshore accounts. At first I thought it was incompetence, then I realized it was deliberate." Amelia crossed her arms. Something in his tone made her believe him, but there was still resistance. 7 years of anger don't disappear with a few words. "Go on." "I documented everything. I saved proof, spreadsheets, recordings, photographs. I was going to turn it over to federal agents. I thought it was the right thing to do, what any honest person would do. But they found out first. I don't know how. Someone saw me. Someone noticed my movements, the questions I asked, the files I copied." He paused, swallowed hard. "It wasn't just business executives, Amelia. There were people with real power, high-ranking politicians, people who won't tolerate exposure, who eliminate problems, who make people disappear without a trace." "And you ran," she said, unable to keep the judgment out of her voice. "I protected you," he replied, firmer now. "They came after me. They left messages, threats. At first I thought they were bluffing, until the day I came home and found a picture of us on the kitchen table. Us, sleeping. Someone had gotten into our house while we slept and photographed us." Amelia felt her stomach clench. She remembered that time, the last few months with David, how distant he was, nervous. She thought it was another woman. She never imagined this. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have insisted on staying with me, on facing it together. And I couldn't let them hurt you because of my mistakes. So you preferred to hurt me by losing you." The question hung in the air between them. David opened his mouth, but closed it without answering. There was no right answer. It had hurt either way. He just chose how. "I left in the middle of the night," he continued. "I took very little, left everything behind, changed my name, changed cities, worked in places that didn't ask for documents. I became invisible." "And the boy?" Amelia asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. David went to a small bookshelf. He picked up an old shoebox. He returned and handed it to Amelia. She opened it slowly. Inside were papers, a birth certificate, photos. She picked up the certificate. She read it. The boy's name, Leo. Mother, Laura Beth Johnson. Deceased. "I met Laura about a year after I disappeared," David said quietly. "She worked at the same restaurant I did. She was alone. Her whole family was gone. We became friends. That's all it was at first. She knew I was running from something but never asked for details. When she found out she was sick, it was already too late. Cancer. Aggressive. Leo was 3 months old. No one else. Before she died, she asked me to take care of him. I was all that boy had." Amelia looked at the photos. Laura was young, beautiful, a sad smile, baby Leo in her arms. She felt jealousy and guilt at the same time. Jealousy of a dead woman who had David when she couldn't. Guilt for being jealous of someone who had suffered so much. "He's not my blood son," David said, "but he is my son. I raised him these past few years. I taught him to walk, to talk. I stay awake when he has nightmares. He's all I have now." "And me?" Amelia asked before she could stop herself. "What was I?" David finally looked at her, really looked, like he hadn't since she arrived. "You were everything," he said. "That's why I had to leave." She laughed, though there was no humor in it. A broken sound that came out wrong. "That makes no sense." "It does, if you understand that I'd rather live without you than live knowing I put you in danger, that you were harmed because of me." Amelia sat in one of the chairs. Her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Her head spun with too much information. She had come wanting answers, and now that she had them, she didn't know what to do. "Are you still in danger?" she asked. "I don't know. Nothing has happened in years. I've moved so much I lost their trail. But I'm not sure they lost mine. That's why the fear when you showed up. If someone followed you—" "No one followed me," she said, though now she wasn't so sure. "How can you know?" She couldn't. She lived in another world, a world of scheduled meetings, chauffeurs, security guards. She never had to look over her shoulder, never thought someone might be watching. They fell silent. The fire in the hearth crackled softly. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Amelia looked around the house. She noticed details she hadn't seen before. A small photograph on the wall. She picked it up to see it better. It was her, old. From their wedding, David had kept it. "I kept a few things," he said, seeing what she held. "Not many, but the essential ones." "Why? If you wanted to disappear, why keep anything?" "Because I didn't want to forget. I wanted it to hurt. I deserved for it to hurt." Amelia put the photo back. She walked to the bedroom door where Leo slept. She peered through the crack. The boy was bundled in blankets, one arm thrown out, clutching a well-worn teddy bear. The tranquil breathing of someone who carries no burdens yet. "Does he know?" she asked quietly. "About you? About what happened?" "He knows we moved around a lot, that we can't talk much about the past. But he doesn't know the details. He's still a child. He deserves to be a child." Amelia slowly closed the door. She returned to the living room. David had sat in the other chair. He looked exhausted, as if telling everything had taken something out of him. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Why did you agree to see me? You could have vanished again." "I could have," he admitted. "But I'm tired of running. And when I saw you there on the road, I realized I didn't have the strength to run anymore. Not from you. So what do we do now?" "I don't know," I came here without a plan, just to explain. So you'd know it wasn't for lack of love. It was the opposite. Amelia felt tears welling up, but held them back. She wouldn't cry. Not after so long without crying. She had become tough over the years. She had to be tough to survive. I hated you, she said. I hated you so much that sometimes I didn't know if I wanted you dead or alive. Dead would have been easier. I would have had a reason. But alive? Alive meant you chose to leave me. You chose to live without me. I know. You don't know. There's no way you could. You weren't there when I woke up alone. When I spent weeks waiting for some sign. When I sold the house because I couldn't bear to be in it anymore. When I built an entire life around the void you left. Her voice cracked on the last word. David rose as if to go to her, but stopped halfway. He had no right to comfort her, not after what he did. I'm sorry, he said. I know it doesn't help. I know it changes nothing. But I'm sorry. Amelia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was firmer. I need to leave. I need to think, to process all of this. I understand, but I'll be back tomorrow. I need more answers. I need to understand better. David nodded. He walked with her to the door, opened it. The cold night air rushed in. Amelia stopped on the threshold. She turned to look at him one last time. You've changed, she said. You too. No, you've really changed. In the way you look, the way you move. There's fear in your eyes that was never there before. 7 years of running will do that to anyone. She left, walked to her car, got in, started the engine but remained still, looking at the house. David was still in the doorway. The light behind him cast a silhouette. She put the car in gear, drove slowly down the dirt road. When she looked in the rearview mirror, he was still there, standing, alone, just as she had felt all those years. The drive back was faster than the drive there. Her mind worked too quickly, processing, analyzing. She had spent so long constructing a version of what happened, a story where David was the villain, where she was the victim. Now everything was more complicated. He had his reasons, maybe even good reasons, but that didn't erase the pain. It didn't bring back the lost years. She arrived at the motel, went up to her room, sat on the bed, picked up her cell phone. There were messages from her assistant, from partners, from clients. She ignored them all. She opened the nightstand drawer. There was a small bottle of whiskey. She drank straight from it, felt it burn going down. She lay down, still dressed, looked at the ceiling, tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw David, she saw Leo, she saw Laura in the photo, she saw 7 years of a life that could have been different. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? Silence on the other end. Then a male voice. Calm, cold. Ms. Amelia Vance? Who is this? A friend. Just a piece of advice. Go back to your city. Forget what you saw. Some stories are best left in the past. The call dropped. Amelia stared at the phone, her heart pounding, her hands trembling. She tried to call back. Number. Out of service. She got up quickly, locked the door, checked the window, closed the blinds, sat on the bed, hugging her knees. Now she was sure. David wasn't paranoid. The danger was real, and she had just stepped right into it. Chapter 3. Morning arrived without Amelia having truly slept. Just short naps interrupted by any sound in the hallway, every door closing, every step, every muffled voice. Everything seemed like a threat now. The world had reshaped itself overnight. She left before breakfast. She didn't want to be around people. She couldn't pretend normality. She drove aimlessly. At first, just following empty roads as the sun slowly rose, painting everything in colors that seemed less vibrant than before. The call from the night before echoed in her head. Go back to your city. Forget what you saw. As if it were that simple. As if she could erase everything and return to the life she had before seeing David at that apple stand. But she couldn't. She knew she couldn't. Because even with fear, even knowing she was getting involved in something dangerous, there were too many questions left, and there was Leo, the boy who called. David, Dad. The boy who carried on his face traits she recognized, not of blood, but of care, of love, of the small things a father passes on without realizing. She stopped at a small roadside diner, ordered something she didn't want, sat near the window watching cars pass. Normal people living normal lives, couples, families, all with their common problems and predictable days. She envied them again, the simplicity, the peace of not carrying heavy secrets. A woman entered the diner, older, grey hair pulled back in a bun. She sat at the next table, ordered tea. She looked at Amelia in a way that seemed casual at first, but it lasted too long. When their eyes met, the woman smiled, small, polite, but there was something more there. "Excuse me," the woman said. "I don't mean to bother you, but you look familiar." Amelia tensed. Everything seemed suspicious now. "I don't think we've met." "Perhaps not. It's just, I saw you yesterday, when you stopped at the apple stand. It was quick, but I noticed. Not many people pass through here usually." The coffee Amelia had in her mouth turned bitter. She swallowed with effort. "I just stopped to buy some fruit." "Of course," the woman said, but her tone indicated she knew it was a lie. "That man, David, he's a good man, takes good care of the boy, always polite, but he keeps a lot to himself. You can tell." "You know him?" "Everyone knows everyone here. Small town. He arrived about 5 years ago, didn't talk much about where he came from. People respected that. But you notice when someone is running from something, it's in their eyes, in the way they always walk looking back." The woman took a sip of her tea. Amelia waited. There was more coming. She could feel it. "I just wanted to say," the woman continued, "that if you care about him, truly care, it might be best to leave. The people looking for him won't stop. And you being seen with him could complicate things, for both of you." She stood up, left money on the table, passed Amelia on her way out, stopped very close, spoke softly. "There was a man here last night, after you left, asking questions. About strangers in town, about different cars. Leave while you can." The woman left. Amelia stood still, holding her cup. Her hands trembled so much that coffee spilled on the table. She wiped it with a napkin, tried to breathe deeply, organize her thoughts, but she could only think about what the woman said. There was a man asking questions. They knew. Somehow they knew she had been there. She paid, left quickly, got in her car, locked the doors, grabbed her cell phone, called David. It rang 6 times before he answered. "Amelia, we need to talk, now. Did something happen? Just tell me where you are, away from the house, somewhere we can meet without being seen." There was a pause. She heard Leo singing something in the background, the normal life of a child, innocent of the danger around him. "Do you know the old road? The one that goes past the wooden bridge?" "I'll find it. There's an abandoned red barn there. You can't miss it. I'll be there in half an hour." She hung up, looked up the road on her cell phone map. Found it. It was far out, off the beaten path. Perfect. She drove faster than she should have, checking the rearview mirror every minute, looking for cars that seemed to be following. But the road was empty. Just her and the fear growing in her chest. The barn was exactly as David described. Peeling red paint, a door hanging on one hinge, tall weeds around it. She parked near the entrance, got out, waited. The silence was absolute, only wind in the trees, birds in the distance. She saw dust rising on the road. An old car appeared. David. He parked beside her, got out alone. Leo wasn't with him. "I left him with the neighbor," David explained before she asked. "Said I had to take care of something." What happened? Amelia told him everything. The call last night, the woman at the diner, everything. David grew paler with each word. When she finished, he ran a hand over his face. He seemed to have aged 10 years in 10 seconds. I knew it, he said. I knew that when you showed up, it would draw attention, but I had hope. Idiot hope that maybe they had forgotten, that maybe I was finally safe. Who are they, David? I need to know exactly who we're dealing with. He looked around, at the road, at the weeds, searching for something, or someone. Not here. Let's go inside. The barn inside was bigger than it looked. Old hay piled up, rusty tools, light filtering through holes in the roof. David went to the back, sat on a pile of wood. Amelia stood, waiting. The scheme I uncovered, David began, involved money laundering. A lot of money from various sources, drugs, weapons, human trafficking, all mixed together. Legitimate businesses used as fronts. Politicians taking bribes. Judges, federal agents, important people, people with the power of life and death over anyone who threatened to expose them. You went to law enforcement. I tried. I scheduled a meeting. But the day before I received the threats, I realized they had people inside law enforcement too. There was nowhere to go, no one to trust. And the evidence? You said you documented everything. David hesitated, looked at her as if weighing whether he could trust her, if he should trust her. I kept it, hidden, in a place no one will find. David, if you have proof, we can use it. We can expose everything, end this once and for all. And die in the process? They won't let that happen. They've been trying to find me for years. If they discover I still have the evidence, they'll redouble their efforts. So what do you want to do? Live running forever? Looking over your shoulder? What about Leo? What kind of life is that for a child? Her voice had risen. It echoed in the barn. David remained quiet. When he spoke, he sounded defeated. I don't know what to do. That's why I never did anything. That's why I just ran. Because I didn't have the courage to face it. And now you're in the middle of it. My fault again. Amelia sat beside him. Not too close, but close enough for him to feel he wasn't alone. Show me the evidence, she said. Let me see it. Maybe I can find a way. I know people, powerful people, attorneys, journalists. Maybe we can do this the right way without exposing you. I don't want to put you in more danger. I'm already in danger. From the moment I saw you at that stand, now it's either do something or let them catch us doing nothing. He thought. Amelia saw his internal struggle, the fear, the desire to trust, the memory of everything he had lost by not trusting anyone. Okay, he said finally. I'll show you. But not today. I need to make sure we're not being followed, that it's safe. Tomorrow. I'll call you and set up where. Amelia nodded. She stood up. David did too. They stood face to face. Closer than they had been since their reunion, she saw every detail of his face. The new wrinkles, the grey hairs, the eyes she once loved, and that now seemed both like a stranger's and utterly familiar. I miss it, he said quietly. You, the life we had. Waking up and knowing I wasn't alone. I miss it every day. Then why didn't you come back in 7 years? Why did you never try to make contact? Not even a letter, not a sign you were alive. Because every day that passed made it harder. And because I was afraid to look for you and discover you had moved on. That you had someone new, that you were happy without me. It would be easier to think of you hating me than indifferent. I was never indifferent. I never could be. He slowly raised his hand. Hesitant, touched her face lightly. Just for a second. Amelia closed her eyes at the touch. When she opened them, he had already pulled away. I need to go, David said. The neighbor can't keep Leo too long. And you need to go back too. Check if anyone's following. How do I do that? Change your route several times. Drive slowly. Observe if any car stays behind you for too long. If you feel something is wrong, don't go straight to where you're staying. Drive around. Test it." He spoke like someone with experience, like someone who had spent years doing exactly that. They left. The barn. The daylight seemed too strong after the gloom inside. David went to his car. He stopped before getting in. "Amelia?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up, for trying to understand, for still being here." She didn't answer, just nodded. He got in his car, started it, drove slowly down the dirt road. She watched until he disappeared. Then she got in her own car, followed his advice, changed her route 3 times, checked the rearview mirror obsessively. She didn't see anyone, but the feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. She returned to the motel, went up to her room, locked the door, sat on the bed, picked up her phone. She had missed 5 calls, all from her assistant, messages asking when she would return, saying there were important meetings, contracts waiting for her signature. The world kept spinning while hers fell apart. She called back, "Amelia, finally! I was worried. Did something happen?" "I'll need a few more days. Something personal came up." "More days?" "Amelia, there's the merger contract. It needs your signature, and the Japanese investor is waiting for a response. Email everything. I'll handle it from here." "But..." "No buts. Just do what I'm asking." She hung up before her assistant could argue further, threw the phone on the bed, lay down, staring at the ceiling. She thought of everything she had built in those 7 years, the empire she raised, the strong woman she became, and how small it all seemed now compared to the mess she had gotten into. Her phone vibrated, message from an unknown number. She opened it. "Last chance. Walk away." Amelia read it 3 times, each word weighing more than the last. She deleted the message, but she knew she wouldn't walk away. Not now. Not when she was so close to answers. Not when David needed her. Even after everything, even with all the hate and pain, she still cared, and that was the scariest thing of all. Chapter 4. Night fell heavy over the small town. Amelia had spent the day in her room trying to work but couldn't focus. The numbers on her laptop screen blurred. The emails seemed written in another language. Her mind was elsewhere, trapped in half-finished conversations, in veiled threats, in a man who sold apples but held secrets capable of destroying lives. The phone rang at 10 that night. David. She answered on the first ring. "Can you talk?" he asked quietly. "Yes, I'm alone." "Tomorrow, 8 in the morning, there's an old church on the outskirts of town. Our Lady of something. I don't remember the full name. It's been abandoned for years. I'll meet you there." "Why there?" "Because no one goes there, and because you can see if anyone approaches from all sides." He hung up before she could reply. Amelia stared at the phone, the urgency in his voice, the barely disguised fear. This was getting too real, too fast. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. She stayed awake, planning what she would do with the evidence, who she could trust, how to protect David and Leo, how to get out of this alive. The questions spun without answers until the first light appeared at the window. She showered, dressed in dark clothes, jeans, a simple blouse, nothing to draw attention, grabbed her car keys, went down the service stairs. She didn't want to go through the lobby. She didn't want anyone to see her leaving so early. The town was still asleep as she drove through the empty streets. Few cars. None. That seemed to be following, but she couldn't be sure. She found the church easily, small, peeling paint, a leaning wooden cross on top, rusty iron gate, half open. She parked nearby, but not directly in front. She walked the rest of the way. The loose stone ground crunched with each step. She pushed the gate. The creak echoed too loudly. She entered the yard. Tall weeds, broken stone benches, everything long abandoned. David was already there, sitting on the entrance steps. He saw her arrive and stood up. He seemed not to have slept either, deep circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes. "You came," he said. "I said I would." He looked around once more before continuing. "Let's go inside. It's safer." The church door was locked, but he had a key. He opened it. They went in. Inside it was cold and damp, the smell of mildew, pews gnawed by termites, broken stained glass windows letting light in at strange angles, plaster saints with peeling faces staring from the altar. David went to the back, behind the altar. He knelt, began removing stones from the floor. Amelia approached. She saw it was a hiding spot, a small cavity beneath the stones. He pulled out a metal box from inside, old, rusty at the edges, placed it on the altar. "It's all here," he said. "Documents, photos, recordings, bank transactions, names, dates, everything." Amelia opened the box. Inside were meticulously organized folders, flash drives labeled with dates, CDs in clear cases, papers yellowed by time but carefully preserved. She picked up a document. Her hands trembled slightly. She read, "Transfers of millions, tens of millions, companies she recognized from the news, some she did business with, names she saw on TV every week, smiling faces in campaigns, empty promises on rostrums, all lies, all rotten inside." She felt her stomach churn, nausea rising. "My God," she murmured, this is massive." "I know. That's why I had to run. This brings down powerful people who won't let this happen without a fight." She continued flipping through. She saw photos, secret meetings, envelope deliveries, faces she saw on television, politicians, business executives, people who swore they were honest, all lies, all rotten inside. "How long did it take you to gather all this?" "Months. I worked for one of the shell companies, had access to some documents. The rest, I gathered little by little, copying when no one was looking, recording conversations, risking everything." "And they found out?" "Someone noticed. I don't know who, but they noticed. The threat started. Subtle at first, then more direct. I realized I didn't have any more time. I had to disappear." Amelia closed the box, looked at David. "We need to turn this over to federal authorities, people from outside, who have no connection to anyone here. What if they're compromised too? What if the rot goes deeper than I think? Then we go to the press, major newspapers, international outlets, places where they can't control the narrative." David shook his head. "I've thought about it 1,000 times, but each time I remember what they can do, what they will do. To me, to Leo, now to you too." "Leo is the problem," Amelia said. "As long as he's here, you're stuck. You can't take risks because you can't risk him." "Exactly. Then we get him out of here, send him somewhere safe, with someone trustworthy, while we sort this out. I have no one. I have no family. Laura had no one. It's just him and me." Amelia took deep breath. What she was about to say was crazy. She knew it was, but she saw no other way out. "I know people, trusted friends, who can take care of him for a while, without asking questions, just until this is over. You barely know me now. Why would you do that? Because it's the right thing to do. Because a child doesn't deserve to pay for adult mistakes. And because—" She paused. "Because I still care, even after everything." David looked at her. Really looked, like he used to, when they were married and he knew her better than she knew herself. "You don't have to do this," he said. "You've already done too much by coming here, risking so much. Maybe I do. Maybe it's my way of forgiving or understanding, I don't know yet." A noise outside interrupted them. Both froze. Footsteps. Someone in the yard. David grabbed the box, signaled Amelia to be quiet. They went to one of the windows, looked carefully. A man, in a dark suit, military-cut hair, dark sunglasses even in the dim light. He walked slowly through the yard. observing, searching. "Damn," David whispered. "We need to get out. Now. Is there another exit?" "Out back, through the sacristy. Come on." They ran, crouching between the pews, shadows moving fast. David knew the way. He had planned this, rehearsed it mentally 1,000 times. He knew that one day he would need to escape from there. He always knew. They reached the back door, old wood, rusty hinges. He tried to open it, pulled hard, stuck, jammed by moisture and time. "Break it," Amelia said, her voice urgent but controlled. "It'll make noise. He'll hear. And staying here will be worse. Much worse." David kicked the door. Once. Wood groaned. Twice. A crack formed. On the third kick it gave way with a crash that echoed through the entire church. Wood splintering. They ran out into an open field behind the church. Bright light after the gloom, blinding. They started running, tall grass whipping their legs. The metal box hit David's chest with each stride. A rhythmic metallic sound. Amelia looked back. The man had come out of the church, stopped on the steps. He saw them clearly. He started running too. Faster, much faster. "Faster!" David yelled. They reached an area with trees, ran into the undergrowth, branches scratching. Amelia tripped, but David held her. They kept going. The sound of footsteps behind them grew closer. The man was faster. "Split up," David said. "You go that way. I'll go this way. We'll meet at the car." "I'm not leaving you alone." "He's after the box. After me. You have a chance to get out. Go." He pushed her aside before she could protest. Amelia saw him disappear among the trees, heard the man shout something. She kept running. Emerged from the undergrowth onto a secondary road. Her car was far away. She had to go back. But if she went back, she might lead the man directly to David. She stopped behind a tree, breathing heavily, heart pounding too hard. She waited, heard more shouts, sounds of a scuffle, then silence. A silence that lasted too long. She slowly emerged from her hiding place, retraced the path they had run, searching, calling softly. "David?" Nothing. "David, where are you?" She found marks of a struggle, broken branches, disturbed earth, but no sign of him, or the man, or the box. They had vanished. Amelia felt panic rising. She couldn't have lost him again, not now, not like this. She kept searching, calling. Minutes dragged on like hours, until she heard an engine, a car coming fast. She hid, saw a black sedan pass, the man in the suit driving, alone. She waited for him to disappear. She came out, ran back to the church, to the yard. Her car was still there, David's wasn't. She grabbed her cell phone, called him, went straight to voicemail. "David, call me. Please. I need to know you're okay." She waited. 10 minutes, 20, no call, no message. She got in her car. She didn't know what to do, where to go. If she should wait there or search. Her phone rang. She answered desperately. "David!" "It's me. I'm okay, but I can't talk much." "What happened? Where are you?" "I managed to get away, but they took the box. While we were fighting, another one appeared. They got the evidence. Amelia, we lost everything." "No, there has to be a copy. There has to be another place you kept it." "There isn't. That was everything. 7 years of evidence. Everything we could use. It's gone." His voice was broken, defeated. Amelia felt tears welling up, but held them back. "Now what?" "Now you leave. Go back to your city. Go back to your life. This is over. It's not over. We can start over. We can't do anything. They won, and if we continue, they'll kill us. Both of us. I don't want your death on my conscience too." "David, don't do this. Don't give up again." "It's not giving up. It's surviving. And you need to survive. You need to live the life you deserve, away from all this." "What about you? What about Leo?" "We'll disappear again, change our names, change cities, start over like always." "No." "Amelia." "I said no. I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to lose you again." There was silence. She heard his breathing, heavy, tired. "Why do you care so much?" he asked. "After everything I did, how I hurt you." "Because love doesn't just end because we want it to. Because 7 years didn't erase what I felt. And because I'm not going to let bad people win. Not this time." More silence. Then his voice came, low, almost inaudible. "I love you too. I never stopped. But love isn't enough against this. Then we'll find out what is, together, the right way." David sighed. "It's going to be dangerous, more dangerous than it's been so far. I know. It might not work, it might end badly. But it's a chance, it's better than nothing." "Okay, I'll think of something. I'll call later. And Amelia?" "Yes? Thank you for not giving up on me." He hung up. Amelia held the phone, looking at the sky that was clouding over. The first drop of rain fell, then another. Soon it was raining hard. She sat in the car, started the engine, but she didn't leave yet. She stayed, there watching the rain wash over the abandoned church, the peeling saints, the broken promises, all so similar to what she felt inside. But there was something else too, small, fragile, but present. Hope. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe they could fix what was broken. Maybe love was enough in the end. Maybe. Chapter 5. 3 days passed without news. Amelia stayed in the motel, waiting, working when she could, checking her phone every 5 minutes. Nothing. David had vanished again. But this time it was different. This time she knew he would return. He had promised. And something in his voice when he hung up told her he would keep it. On the 4th day he called, early morning. Amelia was still asleep, but woke at the first ring. "There's something I need to show you," David said without a greeting. "But it has to be now. We can't wait any longer." "Where?" "Do you remember the house where I grew up? Where my grandmother lived?" Amelia remembered. They had gone there together a few times when they were dating. An old house in the countryside, isolated. His grandmother had died years ago. "I remember. I'll be there at 2 in the afternoon, alone, without Leo. It's important." "Okay, I'll be there." He hung up. Amelia got up, showered quickly, dressed, looked at the map. The house was 3 hours away. She had time, but she needed to leave soon. She checked out of the motel. She wouldn't be coming back. Whatever David wanted to show her, it would change everything. She could feel it. She put her bags in the car, drove onto the highway. The road was beautiful, open fields, mountains in the distance, clear sky. It seemed impossible that anything bad could exist in such a tranquil place. But she knew that evil doesn't choose its scenery. It exists everywhere. It just needs people willing to ignore it. She arrived 15 minutes before 2. The house was as she remembered, small, faded blue paint, a wooden porch with a rocking chair, a white picket fence around it. The gate creaked when she opened it. No car in front. David hadn't arrived yet. She walked up the porch steps. The front door was open. She pushed it gently. "David?" No answer. She went inside. It was dark, curtains closed. The smell of a place closed. Up for a long time. Furniture covered with white sheets, photos on the walls, family, David as a child, him and Amelia on their wedding day. His grandmother smiling. She heard a noise in the back, went to check. The kitchen door was ajar, light streaming in through the window. David was there, his back to her, looking out the window at the yard. "You came," he said without turning. "I said I would." He turned. He looked different, determined, as if he had made an important decision and wouldn't go back on it. "There's something I never told you," he began. "About the evidence, about what happened. You said they lost everything. I lied, or rather I didn't tell you the whole truth. There were copies. There always were, in several places. The box they took had documents, But not the most important ones. Those are here. He pointed to the floor, to a loose floorboard. He knelt, pulled up the board. Beneath it was a small safe, old, rusty at the edges. He opened it with a key he took from his pocket. Inside were flash drives, documents in a sealed envelope, photos. "This here is the bomb," he said. "Everything that truly matters, names of the ringleaders, top politicians, compromised judges, everything." Amelia knelt beside him, picked up one of the envelopes, opened it. She saw photos of secret meetings, signed contracts, transfers of absurd amounts. It was worse than she had imagined, much worse. "Why didn't you show me this before?" "Because as long as no one knew it existed, we were safe. But now that they took the other box, they'll realize things are missing. They'll come back looking, and they'll eventually find it. We don't have time to wait anymore." "So, what do we do?" David closed the safe, put everything in a backpack that was hidden. He stood up, extended his hand for Amelia to get up. She took it. His fingers were warm, firm, familiar, and strange at the same time. "We're going to release everything all at once. In every possible place, press, internet, federal authorities, international. So much content in so many places that they can't control it, can't erase it. They'll come after you, after us. They will. But if we do it right, they'll be too busy defending themselves. And with public exposure, killing us will draw even more attention. It will confirm everything. We'll be more useful alive than dead," Amelia thought. It made sense, but it was risky, very risky. "What about Leo? How do we protect him while this is happening?" "I've already taken care of it. He's in a safe place, with people who have no connection to me. Fake documents, a new name. No one will find him. He'll stay there until this is over." "Do you trust these people?" "With my life. With his life." Amelia nodded, looked around the kitchen, at the memories on the walls, at the place where David grew up, where he was happy before everything fell apart. "When do we start?" "Now. I've waited too long. Every day that passes is a day they could find us." They left the house. David locked everything, looked at the place one last time, as if he knew he wouldn't return, that after what he was about to do, this place would be contaminated too. Nothing would be the same. They went to Amelia's car, more reliable, less traceable. David drove. He had a plan. He knew people, independent journalists, attorneys who worked with human rights, hackers who could distribute information without being traced. They stopped at a coffee shop with internet. David connected using a VPN, began sending emails, large files, to dozens of addresses. Amelia watched, saw the list grow, the amount of information going out, spreading, impossible to stop. "How long until they know?" she asked. "Hours, maybe less. As soon as the first journalist opens it, as soon as they start verifying, then it will be a domino effect." He finished, closed the laptop, looked at Amelia. "There's no turning back now, it's just begun." They left the coffee shop, returned to the car. David turned. On his cell phone, which had been off, it immediately began to ring. Unknown number. He answered, put it on speakerphone for Amelia to hear. "David," a male voice. Too calm. "That was a mistake, a big mistake." "Who is this?" "Someone who wanted to give you a chance, but you chose poorly, very poorly." "It's done. No point in threatening now. Everything's already out. It's already spread. You don't understand how this works. We can erase it. We can control the narrative, discredit it, make you look crazy, and then make you disappear for real. You can try, but it will be hard to explain when newspapers around the world publish the same story, with the same evidence, all verified." There was a pause. Amelia heard heavy breathing on the other end. "Is the woman with you?" the voice asked. Amelia Vance, the millionaire. You involved her in this too? Leave her out. This is between me and you. There is no out anymore. You two are in now. Neck deep. The call dropped. David put the phone away, looked at Amelia. Are you ready? Because it's not going to be easy. They're coming with everything. I am. They drove, without a definite destination, just away. They needed to disappear until the first story broke, until there was enough public exposure to make it difficult to act against them. They stopped in a small town, a simple motel, paid cash, no record. The room had an old TV. David turned it on, a news channel, still nothing, too early. They sat on the bed waiting. Hours dragged on. Amelia ordered food. They barely touched it, their stomachs churning with nerves. At 8 that night, the first news appeared, an independent news outlet. Headline, Corruption Scheme Involving Politicians and Business. Executives Exposed. David turned up the volume. The reporter spoke seriously, cited documents, names, amounts, said they were still verifying, but that the quantity of evidence was impressive. It's begun, David said. In half an hour, all the major news outlets had the story. Some cautious, others more direct, but all talking, impossible to ignore. Social media exploded, trending online, politicians denying, companies issuing statements. Chaos. Amelia and David watched in silence, seeing the world catch fire with what they had unleashed. It was surreal, years of silence, of fear, of running, and now everything exposed. Raw, real, for all to see. David's phone rang again. He ignored it. It kept ringing. Different numbers, dozens. He turned off the device, took out the battery. They'll try to find us, he said, using triangulation, tracking. We have to keep moving. For how long? Until we're sure we're safe, that the exposure is big enough, that touching us will cost them more than leaving us alive. They slept little that night, taking turns keeping watch. David stood by the window looking at the street. Any car that passed, any movement. Amelia tried to rest but couldn't. Every sound was a threat. Every shadow was danger. In the morning, new reports, arrests starting, a congressman being taken in, a business executive holding a press conference, denying everything. But the evidence was too solid. Documents, audio recordings, videos, impossible to completely deny. The whole world watching, demanding justice. It worked, Amelia said. We did it. David didn't seem convinced. Not yet. This is just the beginning. Powerful people don't fall easily. They'll fight. They'll try to reverse it. And while that's happening, they'll hunt us. We need to stay hidden until the dust settles, until we're sure we're no longer a threat. How long do you think? Weeks, months maybe. I don't know. I've never done this before. Amelia sat beside him, took his hand, interlaced their fingers. We'll make it. We've already been through the worst. David looked at her. He smiled. Small, tired, but real. You've changed, he said. You're stronger, more determined. I like that. I had to change, to survive without you, to build something. I couldn't just stand by and wait. I'm sorry for making you go through this, for taking away your choice to stay or go, for deciding alone. I know why you did it. I understand now. I don't agree, but I understand. They stayed like that, hands interlaced, looking out the window, watching the day break. The sun slowly rising, painting everything golden. It was beautiful. It seemed like a promise. It seemed like a possibility. It seemed like maybe they could still have a future, if they survived, if they were lucky, if the world was fairer than it seemed to be, but they weren't sure. They only had hope. And sometimes hope is all you need to keep going. Chapter 6. 2 weeks living as fugitives changed something between them. Cheap, motels, fake names, limited cash. David knew how to do this. He had experience. Amelia learned fast. She left behind the woman who commanded boardrooms. She became someone who looked over her shoulder, who distrusted everything, who lived each day without certainty of the next. The news continued, investigations advancing, more arrests, whistleblowers coming forward, people turning on each other to save their own skin. It was exactly what David had predicted. The more light thrown on the rot, the more it revealed itself, and the more it revealed itself, the harder it became to cover up. They were in a coastal town now, small, touristy, easy to get lost in the summer crowd. They rented a simple house away from the center. David still hadn't picked up Leo. Too risky. He said when the time was right he would know. For now, the boy was safe, and that had to be enough. Amelia woke up early. David was already awake. He always woke first. A habit of years of watching for danger. He was making coffee in the tiny kitchen. She came up behind him, hugged him around the waist, felt his body tense first, then relax. Accept. Good. Morning, she said against his back. Good morning. They stayed like that for a moment. Comfortable silence. Something they hadn't had in a long time. Then he turned around. They stood face to face, too close to be accidental, too far to be deliberate. I think a lot, he said, about what it would be like if none of this had happened, if I hadn't discovered things, if I had ignored it. Moved on. We'd still be together, Amelia replied. Probably with a child, a bigger house, a normal life. Would you be happy? The question caught her by surprise. She thought before answering. I don't know. Maybe. But it would be happiness built on a lie, on not knowing. I prefer this. Knowing the truth, even if it hurts, even if it's dangerous. David ran his hand over her face. A slow, careful gesture, as if touching something fragile that could break. I love you, he said. I never stopped, even far away, even trying to forget. You were always here. He touched his chest. You never left. Me too, even hating you, even trying to move on. You always came back, always you. They kissed slowly at first. Then with urgency, years of distance, of pain, of longing, all pouring out in that kiss, hands searching, bodies recognizing each other, remembering how they fit, how they worked together. They went to the bedroom, fell onto the bed, clothes coming off, skin against skin. It was different from before, more intense, more desperate, as if it were the last time, as if the world could end and they needed that moment, that connection. Afterward they lay entangled, breathing returning to normal, light streaming through the window, a beautiful day outside, contrasting with the tension they lived with inside. What are we going to do, Amelia asked, after this is over, when it's safe? I don't know. I never thought that far ahead, always living day by day, surviving, never planning. Maybe it's time to think beyond, to imagine a future. What about you? Will you go back to your life, to your businesses, to everything you built? Amelia thought. The life she had seemed like someone else's now, distant, meaningless. I don't know if I can. Not after this. Not knowing what I know, not being who I've become here. Who have you become? Someone who cares about real things, not just numbers and profits. Someone who saw that the world is more complicated, more grey, that sometimes doing the right thing costs a lot, but it's worth it. David smiled, kissed her forehead. I like this version of you. Me too. It scares me a little, but I like it. They stayed like that until the sun was high, until they could no longer postpone the day. They got up, dressed. David turned on his cell phone to check the news. He had a message, a number he didn't recognize. He opened it. Court accepted charges. Special. Investigative committee being formed. Testimonies begin next week. We need you. Get in touch. It was from one of the journalists, one who had received the documents. David showed it to Amelia. They want me to testify, he said, officially. Will you? If I do, I'll be exposed. I'll have to reveal my identity, everything. There will be no going back to anonymity. But it will finish them. Once and for all, it will ensure they don't escape, that they pay. David walked to the window, looked at the ocean in the distance, waves breaking, constant, immutable, uncaring of human problems. I have Leo to think about, he said. If I expose myself, I expose him. They'll know he exists. They'll be able to use him against me. Unless we reveal everything, tell the whole story, make it public, then anything they do to you will be obvious. It will get attention, protection, or it will paint an even bigger target on our backs. Maybe. But it's a chance to really end this, to not have to run anymore. For Leo to have a normal life, go to school, have friends, be a real child. David was quiet. Amelia saw his internal struggle, the fear, the desire to finish, the responsibility, all mixed together. I need to think, he said finally. Decide if it's worth the risk. You don't have to decide alone. I'm here. We'll decide together. He turned, looked at her. Something different in his eyes, gratitude, relief, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Together, he repeated. It's been so long since I decided anything with someone, since I shared a burden, since I trusted. You can trust now in me, always. They spent the day talking, weighing options, risks, benefits. David told her more about the years he spent running, the cities he passed through, the jobs he did, how he met Laura, how it was to raise Leo alone, learning to be a father without knowing how, the sleepless nights with fear of being found, of losing the boy, of everything falling apart again. Amelia told him about what it was like after he left, the immense void, how she buried herself in her work to not feel, how she built an empire but remained empty inside, how she never truly connected with anyone, because she compared everyone to him, and no one came close. When night fell, they had decided. They would do it, they would testify, they would expose themselves. It was the only way to ensure true safety, the only way to truly end it. David called the journalist, scheduled a meeting, a public place, with cameras, protection, 2 days, time to pick up Leo, to prepare the boy, to make sure they were ready. He hung up, looked at Amelia. No turning back now, he said. It's done. I don't want to turn back. I want to go forward, see where this leads. That night they truly slept, together, without fear, without tension, just exhaustion and the comfort of not being alone, of having someone who understood, who was with her, who wouldn't leave. David woke in the middle of the night. Amelia felt him get up, opened her eyes, saw him at the window, looking out. Can't sleep, she asked, just thinking if we're doing the right thing, if we're not making a mistake that will cost everything. Any choice can be a mistake, but doing nothing has already proven worse. You tried running, it didn't work. Maybe facing it will work. What if it doesn't? Then, at least we tried, together the right way, without hiding. He came back to bed, lay down. Amelia snuggled into him, listening to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. He was alive, she was alive. They had a chance, small maybe, but real. You know, David said in the dark, that there might not be a happy ending, that it might go wrong. I know, but it might also go right, and that has to be enough, the hope that it might go right. When did you become so optimistic? When I found you again, when I realized that love didn't die, that there was still something to save, something to fight for. Before it was just existing, now it's truly living, with fear, with risk, but living. David kissed the top of her head. Thank you, he whispered, for not giving up, for being here, for making me believe there can be a future. Always, she replied. I'll always be here. They slept, finally, completely. without fear of mourning, without worry of what would come, because they knew they would face it, together as a family, as it should have been from the beginning, as it was now, as it would always be. The future was uncertain, it always would be, but they had each other, they had Leo, they had a love that was tested and emerged stronger, they had hope, they had peace, and sometimes that was everything. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was all they needed to be happy, to be complete, to be family. And as they slept, the world kept turning. Problems continued to exist. Bad people continued to do bad things. But in that house, in that moment, there was only love, only peace, only three people who found each other, lost each other, found each other again, and decided that together they could face anything. Because in the end, after all the suffering, all the pain, all the fear, this was what mattered. Love, family, presence. The rest was detail. The rest was temporary. But true love, the kind that survives everything, the kind that endures, that was eternal. It was real. It was what saved them, what gave meaning, what made it all worth it, everything worth it. And they had that, finally, completely, forever. If this story touched your heart, like, comment and subscribe. Stories like this deserve to be remembered.